Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see we have a decent crowd today. I'm going to stay seated unless people want me to stand up. I want it to be a little more informal, but it's sort of like, I feel like I'm low compared to everybody. So let me know how it goes. No, this is just recording. So, I'm going to stand up so people can hear me better. So the mic is just for the taping that's going on today. There's plenty of chairs here in the middle, so feel free to scoot on in. Well, I have a couple of areas that I want to talk about, and then I just want to open it up to any kind of discussion, and some of the discussion may relate to some of these areas. First of all, I want to talk about issues related to student success and related to our WIG. Anybody remember what our WIG is? 20 by 20. That's why I wore my coat, so I could wear my button today. But I've been wearing it all. I wore it to the governor's office today, even. So we'll talk about that. A couple of things related to the Student Success Initiative. Number one, we're going to have our Student Success Symposium on April the 1st. It's going to be from 9 to 2. We are going to be in the fitness center. We're going to try to close most services for the campus in the morning, okay? So we're still working on some issues on that. We are not canceling any classes, but we're trying to see, can we just close almost all the services at least from 9 to 12 so that we can have more people participate. But the focus is going to be on on student success initiatives, learning from each other, learning from our students, learning from other people throughout the country. We're going to have some guests coming in, and we're going to send out a detailed agenda here in the near future. But it's all focused on how we're going to attain our goal of 20% graduation rate by 2020. And what can we do as individuals, no matter what our role is in the college. We want to keep that conversation going. One of the things we heard when we did the evaluation of the November 20th event was people really liked this cross-campus engagement. So this is an effort to keep that engagement going as we move forward, all focused on student success, which is why we are here. So watch for a detailed agenda that's going to come out a little bit more detailed about what we're doing that day. We have a group of people who are planning the event. We do have some guests coming in from outside the college and some that you'll hear about as that goes forward. And this is kind of all linked to our participation in the Achieving the Dream Initiative. And so, the Achieving the Dream Initiative is a national movement focused on increasing student success. And it has grown over the years. Santa Fe Community College was part of the original one of the original 27 colleges that participated, along with 5 other New Mexico schools the very first year. They learned from that first year. It's grown. I think there's almost 1,100 colleges participating in Achieving the Dream now nationally. There are, at the conference that was just held last week, right? There was over 2,000 participants. It's grown into be one of the largest national conferences, all focused on sharing best practices. And so our re-engagement in that is not only to learn from what other schools are doing that we might adapt to fit Santa Fe Community College, but also sharing what we're doing. And at the conference in Atlanta, Shalimar did do a poster session on sharing our math redesign project, and there was a lot of interest in how we as Santa Fe Community College have gone about updating and revamping our math curriculum to meet the needs of today's students and today's employers or today's universities for our transfer students. So that was really great to do. One of the things that I'm really disappointed in is every school in New Mexico dropped out of Achieving the Dream. The rest of the country came back in. And where does New Mexico stand nationally in terms of education? Not very high. Doña Ana Community College rejoined a few years ago, and Santa Fe rejoined a year ago. This is our second year to be back in the initiative. And there are some of those New Mexico community colleges thinking of rejoining. But it was just very disappointing. And part of the reason people dropped out because the original funding ended, which paid for everything. It was the beginning of the recession, and so there were some financial issues related to that. But the rest of the nation is coming on board, and I want us to be part of that effort moving forward. And you're going to hear, I'm going to ask the people who attended this year, we have a team meeting, I think it's tomorrow. I'm going to ask them to figure out some ways to share what they learned, some best case scenarios, some things that they're excited about, they want to hear us move forward and do. And so we're going to figure out what's the best way to share some of that information. And I think some of it will happen in presentations, some of it may happen in some things we write about, and some of the updates and some of the other issues there. But those people who went came back very excited. Every year we're going to send a team as long as we're part of that. It's part of our continued professional development, which everybody says we need to do more of. But we can't send everybody. So every year, this year, the team was almost totally different. We always have to send our team leads, which happen to be Yash and Margaret. But the rest of the group that went this year, I believe, were totally different from the group that went last year. And we'll try to continue that trend. We want to get more and more people involved in that. I do know, as a result of what they saw this year, some of our people want to propose some presentations for next year. So, some of those presentations may mean we send some same people again to do some of those presentations. But we want to get our name out there. We're doing great things at Santa Fe Community College. We're making a difference in the lives of our students, our graduates, and in our community. We need to share that too. But we always need to be open to learning what's happening elsewhere in the country that we can adapt. We can either totally adopt it as is, or we can adapt it for us. So it's part of our continuous quality improvement initiative. So those two things really relate to student success. The other area that I want to talk about before I open the floor to questions or comments is the budget status. Okay, the legislature completed its work. The governor has signed the operating budget. And as a result of that budget, we are taking a cut of $449,000 from what we got in the current year we're in. Now, the part of that cut is for the Small Business Development Center. They're taking a $107,000 decrease. So that doesn't impact the college's operating budget, but it does affect the budget of the Small Business Development Center statewide. But we're taking just over about $207,000 cut in our instruction and general budget. We're taking a $1,200 cut in what we received last year for auto mechanics. We're taking a $2,400 cut in what we received last year for the radiography technician training program. And we're taking a $6,700 cut in our nursing expansion funds. So what happened is they took a 2% cut across the board for everybody. Every line item for all higher education institutions was reduced by 2.4%. That's what those numbers represent. In addition to that, we took a $125,000 cut because we asked for and got $125,000 last year, the current fiscal year, for our hospitality management program. We did not ask for that to be renewed. So basically that's kind of a cut. So part of that $449,000, $233,000 relates to either the SVDC or the hospitality program that we didn't ask for anyway. So we can absorb, as I said in my last update, we should be able to absorb pretty much all of this cut next year just by reducing our utility budget for next year. We did not know how much we could reduce our budget this year because we didn't have a full year's experience with the solar array. But the savings that we're getting from having our solar array on campus are almost exactly equal to the cuts we have to take next year. So that's why I said I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to do next year's budget without having to worry too much about these state cuts at this point in time. Okay, so we'll be able to move forward. We're moving forward with that budget. Just to let you know what's happened so far. We did go out and request people to submit new requests. We knew there weren't going to be new funds, but there's always the opportunity to reallocate funds around the college. And so there was 30 some odd requests. Was it 32? 32 requests that came in. The Financial Oversight Committee, through one of their teams, has evaluated each of those and has given us a list of priorities. A couple of projects went to the top without having to be ranked because they deal with either legal issues or accreditation issues. And so we're going to figure out how to do those. I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to go down the list somewhat. I don't know how far at this point in time. The team's prioritizations were shared with the governing board this past Monday. We had a special meeting on Monday that was focused on finance. So they know what those requests were and what the priorities were from that committee. Next Tuesday, we're going to be reviewing all of these requests at the executive team meeting, and we're going to be talking amongst ourselves, are our priorities any different than what the committee put together, and if so, why? And based upon all this information, then I will make recommendations to the board at both a board budget work session that will take place on Saturday, April 9th. It will be an all-day work session with the board, and then the final budget has to be presented to the board on April 27th. A couple of items that are being considered for the recommendation that I have to make to the board. And of course the board can decide to do whatever they want to do. It's not, they don't have to go along with my recommendations. But obviously I think we will be able to reallocate some funds that are in the current budget so we can meet some of those new budget priorities that were identified through this process. We're talking about some potential changes to tuition and fees. We always have to talk about it. Other universities especially are going to be raising tuition to offset the cuts that they took from the legislature. Remember, the state funding is only 30% of our revenues. So when we get a 2.4% cut, it's only a 2.4% cut to 30% of our budget. For some institutions, tuition and fees and the state appropriation are a much larger portion of their budget than ours. So remember, ours right now is about 50% from our local mill levy, about 30% from the state, and about 20% from tuition and fees. And that's tuition and fees for credit programs, non-credit programs, and contract training offerings. So we're in pretty good shape in the fact that the part that's coming down is only 30% of our budget. But we are going to be talking about some things related to tuition and fees. One is nationally, one of the ways that you really encourage students to complete in a more timely manner, and we used to do this, you waive tuition. If a student takes 12 to 18 credit hours, they only pay for the first 12. If they take more than 18, then they go back and have to start paying again. I would like for us to try to find a way to do that. Right now, our estimate, and some great work out of Opie, and especially from Anthony, who is not here today. He's back there. He's got his hat on. That's why I can't recognize him. We think it's probably between $230,000 and $250,000 that would cost us in lost revenue. Okay? Now that's based upon the amount of tuition we've brought in previous years. I'm going to probably propose to the board, and I am meeting with the Student Government Association on March 30th to talk about all these issues and the impacts there. I'm going to recommend that we reinstate that waiver of tuition between 12 and 18 credit hours. But to offset it, I'm probably going to recommend that we raise tuition $2 a credit hour. It might be more than that, but probably at least $2 a credit hour. We're still lower than almost every other college in New Mexico, and we're going to look at that. But I'm going to present some scenarios to the students. So if a student's taking 6 credit hours, then they're going to have to pay $12 more if you raise it tuition. If they're taking 12 credit hours, they're going to have to pay $24 more. But if they're taking 15 to 12 or more than 12 credit hours up to 18, they're actually going to save money because they don't have to pay for the tuition. So they'll really have some savings. And so we'll have some examples of what that would look like. So we really want to encourage students to take more. For most of us, when we went to college, you always took 15 credit hours a semester. That's the only way you can finish a 60-hour 2-year degree in 2 years or a 120-hour 4-year degree in 4 years is to take 15 or more credit hours per semester. And so I'm hoping we'll be able to do that. We're going to also look at potentially imposing a technology fee. We haven't had one. Many institutions have technology fees. It would be based on just like we have our required fees right now of $3 and something required fee. I don't know if anybody remembers what it is. And $1.50, which is for student government and student activities. We might want to institute $1 or more. I don't know what the number is going to be yet. But if we do that, those funds will be earmarked for technology upgrades that support students. So there'll be technology upgrades to update the computers in some of the labs. It could be some of the infrastructure that supports the students, whether it be wireless infrastructure, routers, or netters. But we're going to be working on a plan, and Jeremy's looking at this already. What do we need to do? And if we did this and generated $100,000 or $200,000 a year, how could we get on a plan to upgrade all of our technology? Right now, we're out of compliance with our own policy to replace the computers every 5 years, 3 years, 7 years, whatever it is. It depends upon the type of device. We would need $600,000 just to get current today. Well, we don't want to get current all at once because then everything would expire at the same time again. So we're trying to put together a plan to institute this. So I don't know how the students will respond to this. I don't know how the board is going to totally respond to this. But we do need to think about how could we bring in some revenues to cover some of the things that we want to do. And then the other thing that we did talk about at the meeting on Monday is the possibility of going out for a bond election and maybe even an election addressing our college's operating mill levy. So we're doing some more work on that to try to figure out, number one, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow. We're talking about we have to update our college master plan. What do we need to really do over the next 6 to 10 years in terms of buildings, both new buildings but also major upgrades? We have roofs that have to be replaced. We have parking lots that have to be redone. We have chillers and boilers that on certain schedules have to be replaced because their useful life ends. So what do we really need to do over the next 6 to 10 years in those respects? I think right now we can probably still go out and do a fairly sizable bond election for a phase 2 of the TATC if that's what we need to do as our next new building, because we need some space for an automotive program. We need some more classrooms. We need some more offices. We may need to do some remodeling throughout the campus. But I think we could do a bond election and do the major projects that we need and still lower the tax rate to the taxpayers for capital outlay. So one of the things we are talking about, and it's being done in open session so I can talk about it, is what we may try to do is go out to the voters and ask them to increase our operating mill levy, but increase it by the same amount we're going to decrease the capital mill levy. So to a taxpayer, it would be no change in what they pay, but for us, it would move funds from a pot that can only be used for capital projects to our budget, so it could be used for operating needs on the campus. Whether that be salaries, whether that be increased supplies and expense budgets, whether that be even technology upgrades that we need to do. So if we go that route, if the board decides to go that route, we're going to need everybody on campus to help us, because we always know that voter turnout is lower for bond elections. It's always lower for community college elections anyway. That means that gives us an opportunity for those of us who work here to have a greater influence on the outcome, because if everybody that lives here is registered and votes here, you know, if every employee, and I know every employee at Santa Fe Community College is not registered to vote in our tax district, but if they were, and we all voted, we would be 50% of what most elections turn out, okay? So we are going to look at that. The board is concerned. Where are we going to get the funds to cover increasing costs, because inflation still happens, insurance still goes up? Where are we going to get the funds to be able to do salary adjustments of any kind if we don't get more money from our mill levy? Because we can't keep socking it to our students by raising tuition to the point that they can't afford it. State funding at best will be flat. It could still go down a little bit over the next few years. And even when it does start coming back, it doesn't come back usually as fast as it gets cut. So we are very much interested in trying to put together a plan to try to figure out how can we address some of those issues going forward. So I said a lot in a fairly quick time frame. Questions of clarification on any of those kind of things? And if not, we'll just go to any other open questions there might be. Henry?
You mentioned the offset of the lottery, would that impact us?
Well, that doesn't impact us, but it impacts the students. So if the lottery fund cannot fund as much of the tuition, it means the students are going to have to come up with more funds for the tuition. One of the ways we offset that, though, is by working with the foundation to get more funds in for more scholarships. So just remember, and I think I'm still right in this, we have less than 300 students at Santa Fe Community College who are on lottery scholarships. But if the lottery, this year the lottery paid 90% of the tuition, it looks like next year it may only pay 60%. Unfortunately, the way the state applies this right now, it's across the board. So they'll pay 60% of UNM's tuition, which is $250 a credit hour. They'll pay 60% of Santa Fe Community College tuition, which is right now $44.50 per credit hour. So, yeah. Gil?
President, with the reductions in the lottery scholarships, don't you think it might be wise if college start looking at possibly bring in like the camp program, college assistance migrant program, to aid the students in their tuition for 1 year and guarantee them a certificate?
I'm not familiar with that program, but we should. I mean, I'm open to looking at any programs that can provide funding to help students with their tuition and fees. So, any ideas you have, let us know about that, because I don't know about all the programs that might be opportunities out there. We had a record-breaking year last year and a record-breaking year again this year with our funds raised by our foundation, and the bulk of those funds go to scholarships, and they tend to be a little bit more need-based, but they can also go towards other things than just tuition, because we give students a blanket amount of money. The lottery scholarship only covers tuition. It does not cover fees, and it does not cover any of your living expenses. That's what financial aid does, either loans or Pell Grants. And we are trying to keep students from borrowing money. We don't want them to go into debt any more than they have to. And so we're trying to keep that under control too. But we're always open to any ideas where we might go get some more funds to support students. Yeah. Yeah. Stan?
There any thought of seeking out corporate some corporate sponsorship for private sources?
Well, we look for those things all the time. And normally corporate sponsorships usually come from businesses that are in your community. Unfortunately, we don't have big businesses in our community. So it really makes it hard for us. We get $100,000 a year from Los Alamos National Lab. That's probably the biggest employer in our area. But we're disadvantaged in some ways, and that is the bulk of our business here is government, and it's the hospitality business industry, and there's not huge dollars in that industry. San Juan College gets a great amount of money from the oil and gas industry. Not this year, but they get a lot of money from the oil and gas industry in good years because they're based there. We don't have that kind of industry here. That's just been one of our positives about living in Santa Fe, but it's also one of the negatives when it comes to raising funds. So we're always looking at that. If anybody's got opportunities, anybody knows somebody to go after, I have meetings sometimes 2 and 3 times a week with potential donors. So, they're individuals, they're corporate, and their foundations. And so we meet with those regularly. But if you have other ideas, make sure you get that to me, because they may not be on our list that we've tried to talk to. But we don't have big industry here to really go after. That's our challenge. Okay. What else? Other questions don't have to be about budget or these. You got some?
There were a couple in the fishbowl outside. Why don't you open the library 24/7 with strong coffee?
Peg, you going to be there 24/7?
You're going to have to give me a lot more staff for 24/7 and a bigger budget for coffee.
Yeah. If there was a real demand for it, I think we would do it. We would consider doing those kind of things.
Did you write this? No, I did not.
She wrote the coffee part.
It's just today.
Okay.
Did you hear this yesterday?
I didn't go yesterday.
Oh, did you hear this yesterday, Karen? Okay. There were 2 others. Why don't we have lockers.
We do have lockers.
We do have lockers.
Mhm.
And hire an ASL interpreter coordinator who knows ASL and interpreting. What's in place does not work.
I'm not sure what that really means. But let's go back to the lockers. There's lockers, we're all over the lockers. There's lockers downstairs, the lower level. There's lockers in the health sciences wing, aren't there? Aren't there some in that one hallway? There's lockers over in arts. There's lockers in the TATC, some in kids campus. So we have lockers around campus. I don't know if people don't, and I don't think they've ever all been used except maybe over in the arts area, because they line up to get those. They line up to get
Somebody
those.
else posted that.
Yeah.
I think we added them, we only have 190 lockers up there.
Okay. And then obviously there's lockers at the fitness center, so to do that. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what the question really is around the ASL interpreting, so I can't really answer it if I don't understand the question. So, okay. All right. What other questions? Rumors. I needed a good rumor. Any rumors, Henry?
Rumor is the states have a cutback on their budgets. If that was a situation for this fiscal year, do we have a backup plan in case we had a...
Yeah, I forgot to talk about that one. So we also got cut about 0.5% for this year. So we're going to be adjusting our budget. That really, for the operations of the college, that's about a $30,000 cut. So that's not a big one to deal with for the current fiscal year. So that'll be dealt with when we do our first budget adjustment request for this year, because we have to get everything kind of realigned. And we'll probably do that either in March or in April. We've often done it in April. There is a concern, though, that the budget for next year could be cut again. And so one of the recommendations that I have made, we talked about it with the board on Monday, is I think we need to set aside $500,000 in contingency funds that we don't budget in case the state comes back and gives us a cut. Then we'd have to go through and find it anywhere else. And if they don't come back and have to do any cuts, then we have it to do some one-time things or to do some things as we move through the year. The state built next year's budget based upon oil being $38 a barrel. It's still in the low 30s. That's up from being in the 20s, but it's still not where they built it. So it's, you know, and it's based upon a $38 average for the whole year. But the other problem for New Mexico right now is it's not just oil and gas that's down. Its gross receipts taxes are down, and its income taxes are down. We've had a number of businesses close, so we've got a lot less people working. And so I fully anticipate that when the first quarter results come out, New Mexico will join 3 to 5 other states who are officially in a recession again. Because when your gross state product goes down 2 quarters in a row, you're officially in a recession. And I fully think that's what's going to happen. That doesn't mean anything other than we just know what we already all know right now. So New Mexico has its challenges. We have got to figure out how to diversify our economy. That's not something that we as individuals can do or we as Santa Fe Community College can do. But there are things that we can do to help with that. That's one of the reasons we offer some of the programs that we offer now that we didn't offer, because they are needed for businesses that are here or businesses that might come here. That's one of the reasons why we're doing some of these pilot projects with some commercialization, new business startups on campus. Not only are they will be definitely offering internships to our students and exposure to what it takes to start a business for our students, and they'll be using some of our resources. And in some cases, we're actually getting cash into the bank for doing that. Some could be lots of cash if the business is successful going forward. Trying to create more jobs in our community. So I think we have to play a bigger role in the economic development of our community. We're doing a lot of these things. Nothing's really costing us any money to do these things that maybe we wouldn't have already spent, but gives us some opportunity to create some more jobs in our community. So I think our college has to take a greater role in trying to diversify and grow the economic base of the geographic area we serve.
Brent, during the session, I heard rumors that the LAFC is going to start hearings on possibly changing the funding formula again.
No. Nothing made it through. None of the bills that would put the current funding formula into law made it even through one hearing. So the funding formula, we do have a team that has been working. It's community college representatives, four-year university representatives, the state, DFA, the Department of Finance Administration, and the Higher Education Department have been working on that. And there's still some work to be done on that. So the funding formula, though, that's been in place now for 2 years is basically in place again for next year and will probably stay in place for a while. There are aspects of it that are still being looked at that could change over time, and some of those changes would benefit a community college. But I'm not aware of the LFC having any hearings on that. There was a move to codify the current formula, which nobody wanted to do because we don't want to put it into law. Then it's too hard to change. Right.
So we know that typically in times of recession, community college enrollment goes up. Do you have any idea what the normal time lag, and are we anticipating that in New Mexico?
We're still working on some data analysis of what we want to project for next year. When we put together this year's budget, we anticipated having a 10% decline in student credit hours. Now, that didn't correspond to a 10% decline in tuition revenues and fees because as we've seen credit revenues come down, non-credit have started to come up, contract training has started to come up. I don't know what a double-dip recession is going to do for us. New Mexico always kind of lags behind, so we didn't get really hit by the recession when everybody else did, and then we got hit and we haven't recovered. If there had been a greater time period and we had really seen a growth period and then we had a recession, I think this is my personal opinion right now, I think our credit hours and number of students might jump. I don't know that that'll happen this time. I think we're too close to the last recession and we never saw the growth spurt, so we don't have new people needing to be retrained in the same way. We're probably going to build a budget that still estimates a decrease in student credit hours for credit courses, which is student credit hours, next year over this year, but probably not at the same level. Haven't come up with that number exactly yet, but probably in the 4, 5, 6, 7% range. We budgeted 10% for this year. I think we've come down about 8 when you average the whole year out. So we did a little better. I'd rather budget for worse cuts and have it be better than the other way around. But I don't know what, it'd be nice to think, oh, another recession, we'll get a lot of students. I don't know if that'll happen or not. I really don't. I kind of doubt at this point in time, but it could. Okay, thank you. What else? Who's got something they want to share? Something good that's going on that they want to share that we don't think everybody knows about? I know you're doing some good things. Somebody share something. Okay. Yeah.
After beating down the halls of Santa Fe High School to be able to go and talk to their kids, I'm now on their advisory board
All right.
for their culinary and hospitality program.
Good.
So maybe I'll get a chance to talk to some seniors.
All right. Be careful what you ask for. You're in the door now. You're in the door now. That's hard to do. On campus, Marcos.
Well, I'll tell you what then, Catherine, if you want to talk to seniors, if anybody wants to talk to seniors, Tuesday, March 22nd, just found that out today. So deans, if you're in here, let your faculty know, let your chairs know. We are going to have SFCC Day at Santa Fe High School. Right. There are no limits to the number of people that can participate. There are no other colleges there that day, unless you're HEC. So it is all SFCC, noon to 1 o'clock. We're going to try to extend the time, but come on down, bring your faculty, bring your programs. Santa Fe High School, there you go, seniors.
All right. All right, good, good. Anybody else?
Recognition to Nick, and particularly in purchasing with the new purchasing process that's been going on. We're seeing a lot of movement in our procurement process, and thank you for all the effort there. And we're seeing quick turnaround on these big contracts that have been sitting around for a while. So thank you to finance and purchasing for your efforts there.
Yep. So Nick, Ed, and John especially have worked, and is Ken? Ken's the other person, right? Is he in here? Ken's gone. He's gone? Yeah. Okay. So doing a lot of things. So not only are we turning things around differently and doing them so that we're more in line with what we need to do, both from a state procurement and an auditing standpoint, but we're also saving bucks. And so some of the new things for some people is kind of slowing things down just a little bit, but guess what? We're saving a lot of money already, and so we'll have a report on that going forward. But I think we're making some great changes that are going to address both auditing issues in the past, but save us money in the future, which we need to save money where we can so we can spend it and for other things that we need to spend it on. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yep, Yash.
The Curriculum Committee has been doing some fantastic work to really help our students become successful. I'm so impressed with everybody on that Curriculum Committee, and especially Colleen Lynch, who's chairing that committee. It's
Yay,
amazing
Colleen.
work, so.
There's a lot going on around campus. Yeah, Beth.
I just wanted to thank the Liberal Arts Department for doing the wonderful readings in the library. They had their first reading in February, I believe. Late February, there's going to be another one, I think in March or April. Anyway, stop at the Liberal Arts Department. There's flyers there. Caitlin Cahill is in charge of that. And we had a wonderful faculty reading. The next one is a guest reader and a student reading. And the third one, I believe, is Miriam Sagan's.
Right. If you haven't ever gone to one of those, go. I was able to stay for the whole thing this last time for the faculty readings, but you learn a lot about your coworkers that you didn't know by what they write and their skill level. So it was incredible to hear all the readings and participate in that. So it was great. It was great. Anybody else?
Working on with Emily Stern.
No, see Emily. No.
The Diversity and Center for Integrated Learning. We're putting together a student behavioral health symposium that will happen April 5th. It's a Tuesday. It's part of the Tuesday film series. We're going to be showing 2 documentary films about the behavioral health crisis in New Mexico. You may or may not know we've been in a behavioral health crisis in New Mexico for the past 3 years.
Right.
We have a local speaker who specializes in addiction recovery. He's going to be talking about how we specifically can support our students who are struggling with addiction and other psychosocial stressors. And we're going to be hopefully getting a student and staff panel together, so you may be hearing from me soon.
Great.
And the big dream is if anybody has any contacts to Michelle Lujan Grissom, no relation?
Gresham, no.
She's actually championing a campaign to investigate the behavioral health crisis that happened in 2013, and we've got calls in. If anybody knows her or has connections and can help us get her here to talk, I think that would be pretty exciting.
I emailed back some stuff to Emily, so maybe
Great.
it'll help.
Good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
I
Julia.
just wanted to add a note that it's Natalie Goldberg who's our guest next time in our reading series.
All right. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Henry.
Hey, real quick, we have a lot of you may have noticed we have a lot of capital projects that are just initiating on campus. Again, thanks to Nick and Ed, we're starting to get some of our procurements out as well. So you'll be seeing a number of capital projects being initiated throughout the campus. The HCC will be open over spring break, so for those of you who are participating in that. And also, Paul will be here over spring break working with the kids campus. We're going to be working in conjunction with the kids campus staff to expand and upgrade their facility out there.
So we're moving things around so we can add another infant classroom, and that's all we're adding right now because we already added the 3-year-old, right? Okay, right. So I want to thank the people, Jennifer and Ellen and everybody else at Kids Campus. We've really made a huge turnaround over there in Kids Campus in terms of both how we're operating, but also keeping the number of students up, which is helping us on a financial side. That's been part of the challenge over the last several years. We've had to provide what I think is too much of a subsidy from the college's operating budget to operate the kids' campus. And we have now gone out, and under Jennifer's leadership, we found different funding sources. We're operating more at capacity. We're adding some classrooms and operating it. It has to be operated somewhat like a business because it's got to break even, or it should break even. And if we can't demonstrate how to break even with a campus here where we're actually even providing the facilities, how can we expect other child care centers out there to operate as a quality center and break even, because if you're a business person, you're not going to keep your doors open if you can't pay the bills. So I think we're on the way to demonstrating it's possible. So we will. Good. Thank you. Right. Well, Nick?
I would just like to say thank you to everybody. Every single person on campus. I think that we've all pretty much contributed to restoring the financial health of the college. It's not, the work's not done yet. Still a lot of work to do. But I do want to let everybody know that in our recent cash analysis that we've been basically looking at on a weekly basis, last June 30th, we ended the year at about $5.4 million in the bank in terms of cash. You know, as we get closer to October and November, that cash balance decreases and it gets a little nerve-wracking in that time period. Our forecasts show that at the end of this June 30th, this is forecast, so it looks like we're going to have nearly $2 million more than the prior June. So, you know, we're not able to do that, and that's been a big focus with the president and the board. That's restoring cash balances because they were depleted previously, and so you know, it's very important to the financial health of the college, and we wouldn't have been able to be in this position if everybody didn't participate and commit to staying within budget, you know, listening to the you know, suggestions on you know, being careful with how we spend money in the college, and sacrificing positions, keeping positions vacant, and I really want to commend everybody. Furthermore, I really want to commend Jeremy, Yosh, Barb, Riego, Ted, and Norbert. They've been really vital in our efforts to you know, better utilize the banner system, make sure that our reporting is accurate, helping us to you know, meet the directives of the president when he said we're all going to use banner to its fullest. I don't know if we're completely there yet, but we've made a lot of really important strides, and so we've really been able to work together in a lot of ways, and I just want to say thanks for that.
Right. Thank you, Nick. You know, just to add to that a little bit, we've been able to increase our cash balance by over $2 million, it looks like, this year, even after we restored salaries. So all those sacrifices that everybody made last year, cuts in salaries, cuts in a variety of budgets, has paid off. I said we would do it in 1 year. I hoped we would do it in 1 year. I was not always sure we would do it in 1 year, but we did. So thanks to all of you. Doreen, did you have something?
Yeah, we're still on a hunt for a possible time capsule site. So if anybody has any recollections of a time capsule being buried here on campus, some of us old-timers kind of remember something, but can't remember
Where? So if anybody's seeing something buried that looks like a time capsule, let us know where it is.
When do you want to get it back out?
Well, we want to know that we have one first. Bury it.
Typically when you bury them, you say when you're supposed to open it up. And most of the ones I've seen have been like 20 or 50 years. And so we actually think that there was one buried somewhere here in the early 90s. So it's about time to open it up. But nobody knows where.
Well, we got a space if you want to put another one.
If we put another one in anywhere, let's put it in writing somewhere. And put it on a calendar.
We could bury it in the dirt room now.
Yeah, with the dirt room. Well, then we'd have to dig up the slab that's going to go in there eventually. For some reason, I still am remembering that it's sort of over there outside the breezeways that goes between the library and OIT area, and where those books are in the coming out of the ground. I'm almost thinking I remember one being over there to the left, but who knows? I have a feeling I was here when it was buried, but I don't know where. Letty, you might have been here too.
I was thinking it was in that same area where Dr. Ritter's bench used to be.
That's where the bench used to be, yeah. That's what I was thinking too. So the bench used to be over there, it got broken and it got moved. It may have been under the bench, so we'll go over there. Maybe we need to go over there with some detectors. Okay, thank you.
We get metal detectors with the SFCC logo.
Right. Send everybody around. Anyway. Of course, what if we buried a concrete vault? Won't help much anyway. Anything else? Well, thanks everybody. We got one more week and then everybody gets a week off for spring break. So I hope everybody enjoys some time away.